Well, here to discuss this incredible, shall we call it, manners blindness on the left is Hollywood journalist, author, chronicler of celebrity wokeness, and creator of the Hollywood in Toto website and podcast, Christian Toto. Christian, welcome to the U.S. Report. Thanks so much for joining me here. And I want to start with a great piece you've written this week on your website titled, Patti LuPone is a huge reason why we lack dissenting views. And it comes off the back of this conversation the actor had this week with George Clooney.
What I don't understand about all of this in this country is that we can't seem to have a dialogue, a diverse dialogue, or a dissenting views dialogue in this country. You are labeled a communist. You are labeled a fascist.
Christian, riddle me this here. Aren't people like Patti LuPone people who are actually responsible for the very fact that there's such a huge divide in American politics?
She needs to look in a mirror. I completely agree. And there's two reasons why you can kind of point to her. One is she's made some really aggressively awful comments about people in the past, kind of giving grace to the person who attacked Senator Rand Paul, which is one example. So she hasn't practiced what she preaches. But she has to understand that her fellow progressives in Hollywood and the entertainment industry on Broadway, not only were they stone silent about free speech in recent years, but they were part of this whole cancel culture / woke movement, where if you said the wrong thing at the wrong time, you got in trouble. And just ask J.K. Rowling. I mean, she said, I don't agree with every aspect of the trans community and their agenda. And she's been under attack for about 4 or 5 years now. So she needs to understand, take a step back and think, gosh, what role have I played and my fellow actors played in this situation? It's a big one.
But, you know, Christian, it's not just, of course, this one actor or actress. It's all over the place because, and I mentioned this before, Larry David, after Bill Maher had dinner, broke bread with Donald Trump and went and said, hey, you know, he's not the horrendous person that you think he is. We had an interesting conversation. He was respectful. Well, Larry David then goes into the New York Times and he writes a piece saying, well, you know, this is basically like having dinner with Hitler. Again, how can we have a civil discourse when we have this situation where the right tends to think the left is wrong but misguided, but the left thinks the right is actually evil?
Larry David committed 2 sins with that piece. One, the Hitler comparison couldn't be any lazier. And 2, it wasn't remotely funny. I mean, I don't know how Larry David could ever write anything that wasn't funny, but he did just that. You know, he's picking on the one person, Bill Maher, a rock rib liberal who has spent months and months and months reaching across the aisle, talking to conservatives in ways that are helpful and full of good conversation and agreeing to disagree. He has really modeled that behavior in a way that almost no one else in Hollywood has done. And for his efforts, he's called a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. That's exactly what Patti LuPone wants to discuss and wants to direct her ire at, but doesn't get. It's coming from her side.
Yeah, and I mean, we've even had, James Carville questioning whether Americans should wait until Trump becomes Hitler before taking action against his administration. Here's what Carville had to say on his Politics War Room podcast. Have a look.
Do we wait until he's Hitler? At what point do you say, nip it in the bud? That's what I say. Nip it in the bud. Don't wait. And one more point I would make to the defenders of all of this. What did Trump's first wife say the reading material on his night table was? I can tell you, Mein Kampf.
One thing that concerns me, Christian, is when you've got all these people who command very high places in the culture talking about nip it in the bud and, you know, all sorts of things and saying he's Hitler, you're going to encourage some really bad behavior out there in the broader community, which we've already started to see with the Tesla stuff, but, you know, also around the president himself.
Yeah, we've had not one but 2 assassination attempts. That rhetoric is really wildly irresponsible, and James Carville is smart enough to know better. I don't know why he's moving this direction, whether he wants more attention or clicks or what the formula is for him. But how dare he? Listen, for all of Trump's flaws, he's shrinking government. He's trying to fight for free speech, and you could argue there's a mixed record there for sure. He's been nothing but a friend to Israel and the Jewish people. I mean, he's the worst Hitler ever. If you have to, if you cut right to the chase. And, we've seen this for years in America where each successive Republican leader is deemed Hitler. I remember Bush's Hitler, and it's exhausting. They can't back it up with facts. And like you said, it's really explosive commentary to the point where, what does it mean to nip it in the bud? Does that mean from a political point of perspective, or is there something else we need to do?
Well, yeah,
It's dangerous.